Horror Lies.
Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe. I'm your regular Wednesday evening host here at Body Bags. It is week number 579, wrapping up November with a theme week with It's Not As Bad As You Think. Compliments to Glenn. This week's going to be fun to see the ones that drop and the defense that is given. In terms of the amount of hate that really does come. Now, I could have easily gone with the last week's review, the Fog remake, for this week's pick. But for some reason, I just wanted to revisit Resurrection, Alien. Maybe in part because Romulus has the Alien franchise back on the front burner. I wasn't near as overly impressed as I wanted to be. I'm a really big fan of, obviously, the first film is in my top 5 greatest films ever, at number 3. But Prometheus and Covenant, I'm a huge fan of those movies. I think Ridley got the short end of those. I think the studio really kind of botched things up, much like they botch up everything. Let's be honest. Like Glenn would say, let's be honest. Brutally honest. And, no different than Resurrection. And, I was just thinking, it's a French director, right? Let's just kind of get into this a little bit. Jean-Pierre Jeunet is our director, and Joss Whedon, which I guess I didn't know that maybe. Marvel writer. Writing the script, and apparently there was a really big conflict between these two in terms of taking that which is on paper, the script, and as a director bringing that to life in the best way you know how. These things aren't always going to be perfect, and sometimes they're nastier than they ought to be. Now, I don't know how many times a French director has brought that French quality of filmmaking to a renowned franchise. Think of Alien as one, obviously, right? But also, too, don't forget the two guys that brought us Leatherface. And with both, you wonder, maybe Alien Resurrection, maybe Jean actually got more of what he was looking for than these guys were able to do. And that is, of course, Murray and Bastillo, right? Inside Among the Living. Great, just heard my dryer go off. And it's these things, you want the most from somebody like this, because you want something new, something fresh, but you still want Alien, right? I guess to a point. And Romulus, thankfully has put everything back, and now we got the word from Ridley. It looks as though, as a result of Romulus, he's going to be able to cap off the David trilogy. That probably is not going to resound well with those who just didn't get with what he was trying to do, but they absolutely love Romulus. But I think this is the best thing for the entire franchise. I mean, you got Alien Earth that's getting ready to drop. I'm not sure how that all will work out. You got a very interesting end in Resurrection. But will Ridley, is a question I wrote down on my notes, can Ridley tie up the franchise in a way that everyone can be somewhat happy with? And now I think, had it not been from Romulus, but Ridley was still able to move forward just to cap things off, just because of his reputation as a filmmaker and whatnot. I don't know if he could have succeeded in the way that maybe he would have wanted to, or we would have wanted him to. But Romulus, I think, can allow him to succeed in the way that we would want him to. I think he can still give us that third piece that, in essence, he wants to give. But I think, the two things now at the forefront is bringing us up to the doorstep of Alien and this 79 film, but also being reminded of what Romulus brings, as well as every other film, including perhaps, maybe in some small way, if the rumors are true and he brings Sigourney back, I'm not sure exactly what that role looks like in Alien or with the third piece of the David trilogy. But with here in this Resurrection, her arc is complete. I wrote in my notes, it's so funny, rewatched this last night. Actually, we did a double feature. We watched Romulus and then we watched I watched Resurrection. And that is an interesting jump. Watching Romulus and then jumping to Resurrection. And I have to just say right now, despite what you may think, it's not that bad. In fact, I've always had fun with the movie, but I've always kept that movie... Resurrection is one of those movies in the franchise where you just got to take the entire franchise, move it over to the side, and then just put Resurrection on and just skip out 200 years into the future and enjoy a science fiction piece for what it is. This is a film that maybe doesn't work with everyone because of its over-the-top humor. Whether it's overly done facial expressions or Wayland Yutani being sold out to Walmart. Now I watched the special edition last night. I wanted just to be reminded of that. And of course, you find that in the beautiful anthology. It was one of the greatest gifts my daughter gave me. She gave me a lot, but this is such a great gift. Got my Romulus ticket there. Got my anniversary seeing Alien on the big screen right there. And I just for conciseness, I'll share with you what the book. Obviously, some of you own this already, and but it's been 200 years since Ripley, and that is Ripley 8. Let's be concise here. Ripley here made the ultimate sacrifice, but now a group of scientists has cloned her. Now she's Ripley 8. Along with the alien queen inside her, hoping to breed the ultimate weapon. This movie is not that bad. You jump out 200 years and you have a fun story because anything can happen 200 years in the future. And this is not Ripley. This is not Ellen Ripley. This is a cloned version that is number stamped 8. There are 7 failures, which is a pretty dramatic moment when she's confronted with those 7 failures and her reaction to it. There's a great moment in the special edition where she's confronted with a picture. It's just, how much has she retained or has in acknowledging certain pictures that are put in front of her, and one is of a little girl, and of course, her memories are fighting and scraping to uncover this idea of who this little girl is. She's someone, of course, we know she's Newt, right? And the original idea was actually to go with a Newt character instead of Ellen. But, the powers that be, you can't have Alien without Ripley, or at least, from 3 moving forward. It's kind of hard to imagine that without. But she's died, she died, so, you could have. But I think it was a great role for her, I think. I think it allowed her an opportunity to do some things that I think ultimately were fun. And you get to revisit Ripley in a new way. You're a clone. You're not the same, but you retain some memories. And it's funny. I wrote this down. It's, where'd I write it down? It's funny, you go from a Ripley who says, I'm not going back, and I wouldn't be any use to you if I did, to someone who is genetically now forevermore connected to this species in a very, very intimate way. The other thing I noted, which is just curious, I don't know if I really heard anyone talk about it, but, when you consider Alien Resurrection, you have a queen that develops a uterus as a result of genetic tampering, and gives birth to a with overtly human characteristics, traits, and that it makes for a weird offspring, and how all that goes down. But in Romulus, remember, you have K, who gives birth to a human xenomorph hybrid mutated by the Z01 formula, which, we learn that, the USM is trying to, if it's the same acronyms being used for continuity, they're trying to create a mutated workforce that can basically replace humans in space, which, and that's the other thing that you bring up. Blade Runner. If you listen to, I'm pretty sure it's the Blade Runner commentary. No, maybe it's Alien commentary. It's one or the other. He really makes interesting comments in either. But in the Alien commentary, I'm pretty sure it's there where he says, look, if the crew of the Nostromo get back to Earth unmolested, without ever running, cross pathways with the alien, then they arrive at the Earth of the film Blade Runner. And this is a vision that has never really gotten tied, brought together in an interesting way. And so there's dialogue or ideas left by the wayside when you enter into Romulus, this idea of genetically mutating a new hybrid race that can be the spearhead of colonization efforts. You forget the whole idea that they have synthetics doing this for them, at least in terms of the Blade Runner position, right? And these worlds are not inseparable, and yet they are in a way, which is, interesting. But in Resurrection, basically, it's just a cast real quick. Of course, Sigourney Weaver makes her return as Ripley A. Winona Ryder, of course, as the new synthetic, who has a calling to it's funny, her name is Call, a calling to put the species to an end once and for all. Ron Perlman, of course, makes an appearance, more than that, but Gary Doran is Christy, Dan Hedaya as General Perez is freaking awesome. Brad Dourif, man, is in here. It's funny, my wife was watching this with me last night, and she's like, every time a new character entered frame, she's like, oh, he's in there too? Or, she's in there too? Of course, Michael Wincott, favorite of mine, man, The Crow. And I had no idea he was in Nope. I still haven't watched it yet. It's on my shelf, never opened it. It's been there since Christmas. I don't know. I had no idea he was in it. And so, you got a really incredible cast. With an interesting story where Michael Wincott's character, Elgyn, is the Betty's his ship, and his crew, they're dropping off a cargo. We find out that this cargo, this base station is way out beyond the perimeter of regulated space, and they're doing experiments, mutation with, Ripley, and having taken, blood found and able to clone her to retract a queen to reproduce the species to study, including Ripley. And so they drop off a cargo. You find out these people. One of the guys is from Seven, who had that really terrible, awkward moment in Seven. And so this cargo is human beings who've basically been kidnapped. They have no idea what's happening to them, and they're going to be the guinea pigs for this testing. So in a way, it's funny how Prometheus and Covenant share similar notions with Romulus in the sense of, share similar things with Resurrection. It's kind of like when you watch Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, H2, how much it shares with Halloween 4, 5, really high 5, right? And it's interesting that basically those playing Dr. Frankenstein and creating new mutations and new creations. It's just interesting how all of this sort of, so Resurrection is, so once they're there in the space station, they deliver the cargo, they want a couple days rest, and Michael Wincott's character, of course, has a relationship with, friendship with the general there in charge, and so he buys himself a couple days. Well, that's when everything just goes bad, as it always does. I think Ripley 8 says, they'll breed, you'll die. Now, it's interesting, and so everything goes bad in the rest of the movie. I'll say in this movie, one of the great sequences is an underwater sequence. It's the Kitchen from Hell underwater sequence, where you have aliens swimming underwater to catch their prey, which is freaking fantastic. You have this movie, Resurrection, premiered in Paris, which is ironic. November 6th, 97, considering in the special edition, the survivors of the Betty, having watched the Auriga, the space station ship, has collided into the Earth and presumably nuked from orbit Paris. There's no real deep explanation, I don't think, for the destruction of Paris that Ripley and Call are, kind of watching and are looking at from the safety of the Betty as they land on Earth. And there's no real deep explanation as to what world they have just landed in of Earth, or if the Auriga, in fact, was what destroyed Paris. That's interesting. If you have a hard answer, drop it down below. Let me know. That'd be cool. So, anyways, it is a fun movie. The alien designs, the creature effects, some of the kill scenes. Yeah, some of this movie is comedically over the top. You got a French director who's at war with a writer who is more suited for comic book movies, I guess. It is an interesting outcome, and it is the last film in the Alien franchise in terms of chronology, right? Going out. And what does an Alien film look like that jumps out ahead of Resurrection? Now, that's an interesting film, and one that you probably, there was an Alien 5 that was supposed to take place on Earth, now that you have the characters on Earth, and what that potentially means. But I think a more interesting movie would be to jump out even further after Resurrection and explore maybe ultimately what is David's gift to the universe, and that is this mutated tampering with the engineered black goo bioweapon into something that really sends this universe spiraling into a different place. I don't know, it's a lot of maybe that's what makes the Alien franchise so much fun, I guess. There's a lot there to be had and to enjoy, and like most franchises, some are happier at this point, some others are happier at this point, and some are, it's just one of those things. But I do think it's one of the more solid franchises where it's hard to find a bad movie unless you just have something against one of the films. And maybe Resurrection is one of them. But like I said, you take the whole franchise, shove it by the wayside, at least for a moment, and then jump out 200 years and jump into the world of Resurrection with Brad Dourif and the others, and Michael Wincott, and it's in a Ripley 8. It's a film that does take a look at some interesting themes, and quite frankly, Romulus sort of took from its palette by how it ended its film. So Resurrection, in a way, has, given a little bit of itself to Romulus. And that was fun to revisit. I'll say what was not fun. It's on Hulu. The commercials don't make it fun at all. I really need to get that thing on physical media. I just loathe advertisements. Absolutely loathe them, and that's why I don't stream hardly any. I just can't do it. I don't know. Something in my older age, I hate commercials. I just hate them. Anyways, Resurrection, some interesting ideas. So it's not as bad as you think. Take another look-see at it. And maybe even do a weird double feature, like watch Romulus, Hulu, and then just take a deep breath, push the whole thing aside, and jump out 200 years. See what you make of it. Anyhow, enjoy the week. It's not as bad as you think all week long. It's going to be fun to see the movies drop. And as far as I know, we are planning to record another show, collaboration show, this coming Friday. So that should be interesting. Not sure when that will drop exactly. Perhaps Christmas Day. We'll see. All right. Anyways, my Dogs clinched a spot in the SEC championship game. So go Dogs. And my Bills are on a bye this week, but they are playing great. Haven't beat the Chiefs. So things are pretty good in my little niche of the world in terms of my two football teams I love. So anyways, enjoy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. And enjoy the day with your family. And whatever you got planned. And as always,
this is not a dream. Not a dream. We might be useful to you.